How do you keep your best employees from leaving you? That's coming up next on the Blue Collar Proud Show. Hey everybody, and welcome back. Thank you for joining us on the show that's all about having and living the blue collar business dream. My name is Carter Harkins, and with me every single week sitting across this brand new desk is Taylor Hill. Hey man.
Man, isn't it great? We're in a new studio.
It's looking good. We're excited about this.
Thanks to all the guys. Just want to throw that out there.
You guys have done an amazing job. So we're getting into something that's a big topic today. We're going to take the whole show and talk about this one thing, which is employee retention.
Oh, wow.
It's important. And it's one of those things that lately we've been really dedicated to speaking more about when we go out and speak publicly. We're bringing that baking that into the show in a bigger way as well. So we thought it'd just be a good idea. Let's take the whole episode and just talk about this one issue.
You bet. You bet. You know, it's funny that we're doing this because just this morning I had a brief conversation with a business owner who made the kind of the I'm doing quotes, air quotes. I love doing that on the air. Air quotes. Just made this comment and said, wow, you know, right after we train somebody, they leave. I just wish we could get people that could stay. Yeah. And I thought, man, that is right in with that. And so I asked her this question. I said, so what do you think about that? And she goes, I just think we don't have a lot of people to choose from. So what do you think about that, Carter?
So that's a very typical thing. We've heard that from a lot of our customers. We've heard that from people when we go out and speak. We've seen it in forums. It is a prevailing mindset in blue-collar industries of any sort. It's this idea that there are no good people out there that want to do this kind of work. And it shows, I mean, people comment about it in a lot of different ways, right? Well, you got to take what you can get. Or, yeah, I'm making compromises and hiring somebody I know is not a good fit and they're going to bring a lot of problems into my business. And, but I'm just hoping I can stay 2 steps ahead of them and not let them wreck it. Or the other side of that, right? It's the idea that, I'm just going to not hire anybody that would wreck my business. I'm going to stay small and protect what I've already got and just wait for that magic bullet, that person who's going to come riding in on a unicorn and save, and be the right exact person that I need to help me grow my business. But until that person shows up, and it may be years or at least months, I'm not going to make a move that could jeopardize anything. And so they stay small and they miss opportunities that are just flying by left and right. And one of the times in blue collar industries when growth should be so easy, there's so much opportunity right now. And a lot of that is created by the scarcity. But instead of believing that I can't find good people, I think the real thing becomes starting to shift to a new mindset that says, you know what, I'm not gonna be held hostage by the skills gap. Yeah, maybe there are fewer people than there have ever been that want to do this kind of work, but I'm going to get the ones that are, and I'm going to get creative about where I look and all of these things. So in other words, I'm going to stop believing that there are no good people out there that want to do this kind of work for a company like mine, and I'm going to start becoming the kind of leader, the kind of company, the kind of culture that good people want to work for. And that really is where the magic starts happening.
So I think a lot of owners kind of wait until the guy walks through and they think there's going to be a halo and, the heavens are going to open up and angels will be singing and they'll know like, wow, that's the guy, or the gal for me. So what do you think? If you're waiting for that kind of person, tell me a little bit about the mindset shift on what do you think needs to happen to that leader? So when we talk about leadership in blue collar cultures, there's a tendency to think very command and control style. There's a lot of ex-military business owners that, they're used to a command and control, benevolent dictatorship, basically. When we think about who there is in the marketplace to hire, we're thinking about people who are younger, millennials, who want a culture that they can create with the business owner that's going to be, something that gives them a lot of what they want. And what we know is that command and control style leadership in millennials are like oil and water. They do not mix. Yeah. A leader today needs to be looking for ways to be more inclusive, to be
open-handed and very transparent. It's a different style of leadership now that's required with millennials. And generally, that same style of leadership works with anyone. If you can be clear about what your company is, if you can be compelling in the reason that you do what you do, and if you can be challenging in terms of where you're headed with this and how you want to grow, I don't know anyone of any generation that wouldn't sign up and say, that's the kind of company I want to be a part of. I know exactly what they stand for and who they are. I know exactly why they do what they do, and I feel connected to something bigger when I'm a part of that team. And I know exactly where we're going to take this thing and how we're going to grow it and who else we need to be a part of this team. And that's a challenge I want. So it's clear core values, it's compelling purpose, and it's challenging mission. And those things are what a leader needs to be putting into place. And we can talk more practically about that later.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic. So, with that said, I think it's a great time to introduce our guest.
Absolutely.
And let's get into what he said about that. So I'm going to let you do that because you are the master at
We
that.
just yesterday sat here in the studio with Tim Reed. He's a guest of the show. He's done Frontlines segments with us before, and we got a chance to interview him. And he gave us some very specific things that he does to retain good employees. I think it's going to be really good. So let's play that. We'll come back afterwards and talk a little bit more about that.
Fantastic.
Joining us in the studio today is one of our favorite people, Tim Reed. He is the retail team leader. Not the Tim leader. He's Tim Reed, retail team leader over at Fireside Home Solutions. And that is in Portland, Oregon, right? Or right outside Portland?
Yeah, it is. Thanks for having me. I guess I am the Tim leader, too.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're not leading you, I don't know who is.
I know. Yeah, thanks for letting me be here. It's great.
Absolutely. We're excited about the topic. It's something that matters a lot to us because it goes right to the heart of leadership and culture, hiring well, but also keeping the employees that you have. So employee retention, let's put it on the table. Walk us through your business and some of the lessons that you've learned in order to retain your best people.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we're honest with ourselves, we don't have many qualified applicants that are just banging on our doors dying to get hired. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
So retaining and growing the talent that you have is like the utmost priority. And, I think number one, if you're going to retain employees, it starts with just setting goals and clear expectations.
Yeah. And it amazes me that so many people don't have that for any of their positions. In other words, how do you win in this position? I mean, we've struggled with that a little bit here with new positions. It's like, I don't know how you win. We don't even know how to write your position yet. What it looks like yet. And so we struggle with that. But one of the things that we've really realized is how important it is to the person in that position to have clear goals and have just some kind of boundaries and goals and structure to what does this mean for them to win?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a lot like a marriage where one of the most valuable pieces of information I got in premarital counseling was that in a marriage, there's going to be unknown roles and unset expectations. So it's good to talk about that and clarify those expectations before jumping in. It's the same thing with employees. If you don't clarify expectations, just like you said, Taylor, they have no way of knowing what success looks like. They have no idea if they're winning and losing. And you guys do such a good job of talking about it, is just write a standard job description for every position in the company. And that allows you the ability to critique, coach, promote, and even fire if you have to.
I think in the beginning, when you're ramping up a business that doesn't have clear traditional roles, I think service businesses most of the time have fairly conventional job titles and roles and expectations. In our business, it's not been that way because the nature of the work that we do. But we let our employees co-create the positions that they have, right? We write job descriptions together, and if they change over time, then we're working to do that. And we try to do a good job of nailing down what success in your position as we've currently defined it would look like. But it's sometimes difficult. So I want to talk a little bit about coaching because that communication, that constant getting together and saying, okay, where are we? How are you doing? What do we need to work on in order to get you to a better level or an even advanced level so that you're more successful in what we're asking you to do? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, it's a great springboard because what goes along with coaching is goal setting. So my goal as a leader is to meet at least every other week with my team members. And we work together on goal setting. So we ask, where do you want to go? What kind of money do you want to make? Where do you want to be in 10 years? And we'll plan goals to get there. And then every other week we'll get together and we'll just talk about life. I'll ask, how are you doing on your goals? What can I help you with? And a big thing too is just saying, I'm here for you, even outside of work. Like, I care about you as a person. And it's amazing how when you step into a coaching role like that, how motivation and engagement changes with employees.
Very nice. You know, one of the things I really like what you said here, and I'm gonna highlight it. You get to know people outside of work. I think that's really important. You know, for a long time, I'm the old guy in the room here. That was like you didn't do that. The one thing you didn't want to do is get involved with anybody that worked for you, and you barely got involved with anybody that, you know, worked on the same level as you did. That was really frowned upon. But it is really true that when you invest part of yourself, and I'm not talking about your company, but part of yourself into others, they invest back into you. And a lot of times the way they show that is they're investing in you.
Yeah. And what can happen over long term is that can actually start to change their identity to where a piece of their core identity actually involves your company because you're investing in them outside of just 9 to 5. Yeah. And everyone's got a smartphone and a laptop, so it's like they're taking their work home with them anyway. So whether you like it or not, I mean, you're going to be involved in their life outside of the office.
Good point.
Yeah, to me, it always felt artificial to draw that distinction between, you know, office and home or office and my life. You know, I mean, we spend 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours a day in an environment with our coworkers. We may see our spouse 4 or 5 hours a day, and the rest of the time we're sleeping or, you know, doing other things. So, you know, to say that work is not real life and to put it into some other category that we shove it into, you know, the corner is kind of not really helping us live our best, you know, life with our coworkers. And if you're going to spend that much time with people, you better like them.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. You know, what goes along with that is the saying where they say, you know, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Yeah. And that's the whole thing with employees is like, yeah, you've got goals and aspirations for your business, but unless you actually care about your employees and they know that, they could care less what your goals are, right? Yeah. I mean, but if you can invest in them, care for them, and actually show them that, like, man, the more that the company makes, the more we can be generous to you, that's going to rally them for your business.
Yeah, and Sheryl Sandberg said something in her book that was really, really interesting about bringing your whole self to work, that there's an expectation at Facebook that everybody brought their whole self to work, because to expect somebody to cut part of themselves out and leave it behind is just unrealistic. And yet, I see in a lot of businesses still that's an expectation, and I think it's really unreal and unfortunate because people need to have the freedom to bring their whole selves to work and to be themselves. And that's why you need to know who you're hiring in the beginning, so that when they are themselves, that they're fitting into your culture and all that thing. So, but I just think it's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked about clear expectations and setting goals with our employees, meeting regularly with our team. What else do you feel like is really important?
I think one of the most important things you can do is performance-based pay. I can't stress enough how important that is for a team. It doesn't matter if you're in a sales role, a secretary role. I mean, I'd even incentivize the janitor if I could with performance-based pay. But the reality is that your team members are going to execute the behaviors that you reward. And if you reward performance, they're going to perform.
Execute say that again. That is, I want to write this down, actually.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Your team members are going to execute on the behaviors that you reward. So it's really important to reward performance.
Interesting. We've struggled with that on how to do that in our business. So maybe afterwards I'm going to be calling you and get some advice.
Such a succinct way of saying it. It's really, really good stuff. So, how do you reward them, though, in terms of performance-based pay, what are the measuring sticks that you use? And then you're at a retail situation, right? But talk to us a little bit about that. I want to abstract some things from that.
Well, that takes a lot of context, so it's going to look different for different types of positions. You know, if someone is in a role where they bring direct money in for the company, so whether it's a sales role or a service role where they provide something that generates immediate revenue, you know, you could do a commission on it. You could do a bonus program if they hit their sales quota for the month or for the week. You know, if for someone that's not in a sales position, if you had a secretary, you know, maybe you could come up with a basics checklist for your office that needs to happen. And when they turn that in, they're given a spiff on it. But what you're doing is you're rewarding good behavior, and you're starting to get them to think like a business owner. Because as a business owner, you don't get paid unless you move the needle. So you're starting to do that for your people. And a big thing with this is you should never put a cap on it. So if there's performance-based pay, don't cap it. Leave it uncapped, because that can also make it too to where people can actually start to look at this as a career. And maybe they outgrow this position specifically, but they can springboard into another position to get to higher levels as they bring in more revenue or communicate better with customers or do more quotes each week. I mean, you name what it is, but performance-based pay is the way to motivate your team.
Interesting.
So in terms of helping them perform better, okay, you've got somebody who's doing okay at this level, but you know and you expect that they could do even better. How do you work with someone to really get them to that next level?
Yeah, I've made mistakes with this thinking that I could outcoach motivation problems, and performance pay actually starts to reveal that. So in your individual coaching meetings, you're going to start to look and see what they're doing and what they're not doing. That's a great place for your coaching sessions to start, but there might come a point where, however long it is, weeks or months in a row, they're not executing on what you performed. Then you go back to your job description that you've written up, and you say, look, we expect XYZ from you, and we actually pay you on that performance. We haven't been able to pay you because you haven't performed XYZ. Is there something that we're not doing well to equip you with this, or is this just not a good fit for you?
That's good. So that gives them, it lets them know, okay, we're aware of something. We need to address that. But we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt that perhaps we have some culpability here in terms of what we've given you to succeed in this role. But you also have the ability at that point to say, you know what, I'm not sure I'm in the right seat.
Yep. And it's amazing how many people will self-select themselves out of a job. I mean, you may have to eventually fire them, but if that's the case, it's not going to be a surprise.
No, not at all. And that's a strong culture at work right there. I mean, that is absolutely when people know, that this is who we are and this is how we do what we do, they immediately start to self-select. They immediately see, you know what, this is not the right place for me, not the right role.
And that starts to get rid of the entitlement mentality. You may still have some work to do with that, but if you pay based on performance, someone can come to you at a job review and say, I'm not making enough money. And you can go, okay, how much do you want to make? They tell you and then say, okay, well, if you go do X, Y, Z, and maybe it's bringing in new business. Maybe you say, right now, we don't have enough business to pay you this. But if you can go out and get it, here's the structure of what that's going to look like. We'll pay you.
Here's the path to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that motivates and clarifies for people. And what happens is your comp scale becomes the vehicle for them to achieve their dreams, as opposed to just something that they're owed because they punched the clock for 40 hours during the week.
So let's say that an employee says, you know what, I'm glad you asked that question. I do feel like there's some things that would really help me up my game and perform at a higher level and meet some of my goals and help the company at the same time. And it's a class and it costs X amount of dollars and it's in a faraway city, but that's what I want to do. Can you help me with that? Talk about, is that something you do as a boss, as a team leader? Are you willing to invest in your people that way?
Yeah. I mean, as we speak right now, I'm booking 3 flights to send team members to different parts of the country for training. Now, you don't do that blindly.
Sure.
And if someone wants that training, you listen and you say, okay, what are you going to get? How do you think that's going to move the needle? And if they make a case for it, man, send them.
Yeah.
What that does for an employee to know that they're being invested in that way, I think is almost incalculable in terms of their willingness to buy into my job, to what I do here, to how I contribute. I'm getting new knowledge. I'm now the holder of that knowledge for the organization. That makes me more valuable. It gives me the ability to contribute at a higher level. I mean, all of those things are impactful.
Yeah, and they feel shared ownership at that point. I mean, and you can look them in the eye and say, you know what, this is expensive. It's going to cost me $3,000 to send you, but I believe in you, and I hope we can get this out of it. So go knock it out of the park. I mean, that means a lot to an employee.
We've just done that recently.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you trust your employees, and you can say, I value you enough and trust you enough to send you somewhere. When they come back, they are just more invested in your business.
Yep.
And you can't buy that.
No.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just not something you can buy. And to me, it's just instinctive. I mean, I don't hire, or I should say, because I do most of the interviews, we don't hire anybody we don't trust automatically. I mean, we trust everybody we hire. If you prove yourself untrustworthy down the road, bye. So there's not anyone that I wouldn't send for training, for whatever they need to get the value out of that, because I know what we get back from that.
Yeah. So I think we've covered it. I want to just read these back. These are the notes that I've made in terms of the points that we've covered. Number 1, set clear expectations and goals with your employees. Number 2, meet regularly with your team. Number 3, coach often. We talked a little bit about that. Number 4, performance-based pay. And number 5 is investing in their ability to do their job, the mastery of that particular role in that craft. Is there anything else in those 5 that you feel like we need to bring out?
Well, a funny thing when it comes to retaining team members, I've literally had people say to me, Tim, that's great, but they're just going to leave me when they get trained up. I just can't keep them, so it's not worth investing. And you look at it, my answer is, well, yeah, maybe that's the case. Mm-hmm. But would you rather train them up, they get really good, and they move the needle for your company while they're there, or not invest in them, they're bad at their job, don't represent your brand, and eat up your payroll?
And stay forever.
And stay forever.
Yeah, exactly.
Which one do you want,
Yeah.
And it's amazing when you invest in your team members and you deeply care about them and you coach them, it's incredible how in line with your company's vision their dreams are.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
The days of the boss who looks at an employee as an expendable resource, a command and control, do what I say, when I say, the way I say do it, or you're gone. Those days are gone.
They're gone.
You grow a company, you co-create that company with your employees, and you're building it together. And that communication, that investment, that training, setting those expectations, all of the things that you've just talked about help to create the culture that you lead. We say all the time here on the show, you don't lead a company, you lead a culture, and a culture becomes a company.
That's great.
And I think it's a powerful thing that you're talking about here. This is really good stuff, Tim.
Yeah.
Tim Reed, I want to make sure before we get off, you've just written an ebook, and I want you to tell people how to get it.
Yeah, I have. So I've been in the fireplace industry for over a decade now, and there's been a lot of mistakes and failures I've had, but fortunately I've learned from it. So I wrote an ebook that's called The Roadmap to Success. It's 5 basic principles that you can repeat and execute in your business to grow your bottom line.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's available at the website itsfiretime.com/roadmap.
Excellent. So make sure you go there, download it. It's a free ebook right now, packed with good information, 5 specific things, but make sure you go and get that. It's going to be one of those things that whether you're in the retail business or whether you have a service business, it's going to be transformational for you. Good stuff. Tim Reed, again, thank you for being on today.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you guys. My pleasure.
That was great. He's always got such succinct ways of saying, bringing his knowledge and his expertise.
Yeah,
So,
it's very practical. I love the way he does it.
So he gave us 5 things, but I want to break down a little bit more some of what he said and how it fits in, because at the top of the show, we talked a lot about the necessary ingredients that start long before you keep somebody, right? It's the finding them first, and then the leading them second, and then the keeping them. It's the hiring, the leadership, and the culture piece. And so let's talk for a minute just about what that leadership looks like. I mentioned too the 3 C's, right? Clear core values, compelling purpose, and challenging mission. Give me your take on that. What are some practical things that a leader needs to think about in order to create clear core values, compelling purpose, and challenging mission in their business?
Well, I think the very first thing is most people get this thing backwards, that they hire first and then fix their company second. And it really is backwards. You've got to fix your company. You got to kind of know what your company is about. So having some core values, some mission, having those things in place, the purpose and mission, core values in place is really important before you ever hire a person, because you need to have some kind of an idea of who you're going to hire. Just because somebody fogs a mirror doesn't mean they're the right person. So to hire the right person, you have to know
who that person
is and identify that type of person. And you can only do that if you really dig and get your core values, your mission, and your purpose done. So it's real important as a company to actually do some of that work up front. Now, when you start building a team, you're going to need to revisit that with your team to make sure that everything is going in the direction of which you want to go, because you are the leader. You're going to pick the mountain to lead up to.
Right.
And if you pick it right, your team's going to be on board. If you pick it wrong, you're going to lose your team. So, and that's really important to know that. So in order to hire the right person in the right spot and get them in the right seat, those other things have to happen first. Okay. And then you have to know what that person is going to do, because I think there's some ways that you can evaluate people up front to know their core values as well as their aptitude. And so having those things at your fingertips when you need them, and it doesn't mean that you have to use them all the time, but when you need them, you know where to go to get them. And a lot of people totally just don't even pay attention to that at all.
So what practical suggestions would you, how do they create that pipeline, if you will, to be able to get to that?
Well, and this is as a marketing company with our marketing company, one of the things people don't realize is you should have a hiring funnel that goes all the way from, the type of ads you put out, where you're going to put your ads. If you're fishing, and there's a different way to fish, and then if you go hunting, you got to know where to hunt. So those are two different things. So if you have ads out there, so you're doing a little fishing, and then you have places that you know that you can go to get the type of people that you want, and there may be different platforms for different jobs that you have in your company. And so you need to identify those and know for that position where you're going to go to hunt for that guy. But both those places need to get fed into a filter that pre-qualifies them. And one of the best way to pre-qualify people is ask them to do something, a very specific something, and see, A, do they do it? If they don't do it, they're not the right person. And B, did they do it right? Okay. If they fail one of those two, they're out of the funnel. Don't spend any money. Don't spend time. You just don't do that. So, there's a way to set that up and to ask very specific questions and filter out a lot of people so you're not wasting a lot of your time. And then after that, you want another set of questions to kind of get an idea of who they are and what they are. And then at that point, when they go through those couple of filters, at that point, then you can decide whether you're going to spend money on testing core values, aptitude, and anything else that you want.
That's great. So think of hiring more as a system, putting in more effort to figure out those pieces and create, like you said, as we describe it in marketing, as a funnel that a lot of people at the top, but at the bottom, you're getting nothing but the top performers that you need.
Yeah. And when I talk to people and they go, man, I just can't find anybody to help. And I'm like, well, where are you going? And they're like, well, there's the guys, on the corner every morning when I need a helper. I just drive by the corner and say, hey, does anybody want to work? And then you complain that they're not great. There's a problem there, Or if you say, oh my gosh, I need somebody, and then you just throw things out, and whoever comes through your door, can you start work today? Great, bam, So there's intent, there's forethought. These are things in hiring you have to have.
It dawns on me too that we talk a lot about the hiring process, but if you're the kind of company that doesn't have those rigorous systems and standards in place to hire the right people, then the team you've already got, they're not going to stick around.
That's right.
Because all you're doing is causing them to work with a whole bunch of people that aren't the right people, and nobody wants to work with coworkers who are inconsistent, who lack skills, who don't have what it takes to succeed in the culture. You're just creating chaos in your business.
And it's nuts. And the reason it is nuts is you can be a small business and set up these filters, and you just got to know how to do it.
Yeah.
And there's not enough time here for me to.
No, there's not. But thankfully, it's something that we're talking about in more detail in a workshop that we're producing for this coming summer. Mm-hmm. So the date is not announced yet, but if you're interested, we're calling it the Build a Better Team Workshop. Find them, lead them, keep them. If those topics are of interest to you and you'd like to know how to find the right people, how to lead those people, and then how to keep those people with an amazing rock-solid culture, this is a workshop that you're going to want to find out more about. It's going to be a 2-day workshop here in Nashville, Tennessee. The date is not announced yet, but if you're interested in learning more to be one of the first people to have an opportunity to attend this workshop, we want you to go to a link that I'm going to tell you here in a second. We want you to fill out a very simple form, and as soon as we announce the date, you'll be among the first to learn about it and get the details for how to sign up for that. The link we want you to go to learn about the Build a Better Team Workshop is this. Just go to bcpshow.com/workshop. bcpshow.com/workshop. That link will also be in today's show notes. You can find in the free BCP app as well, BCP Show app as well. Do that. You want to know about this when we launch it.
Yeah. It's going to be something that when you leave, you will have this. You will absolutely have a funnel. You can plug it in.
Absolutely.
And go.
Done
So
with you.
That's why I'm excited about it. But there's one other thing that really makes a difference in retention, and that is whoever the leader is, that they've got the leadership skills to lead the size team that they currently have or that they want. I mean, learning leadership skills never ends. So I want to give one book, if you have not read it. It's John Maxwell's 21 Laws of Leadership. I almost said 12. I do that as dyslexic sometimes. So it's the 21 Laws of Leadership. It is a fantastic book to start with because you need to, it's like driving a car. If you know the laws when you drive the car, then you pretty much can go past the exam. It's the same type of deal. So the 21 Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. And we'll put that in the show notes too.
Put a link to that so you can get it on Amazon as well. Man, this has been a great conversation, and I know there's a lot more to cover in this, and we're going to get into this, Proud Nation, in a lot more detail in coming episodes. This is something we know is one of your biggest pain points, and we are committed to helping you address that successfully in your business so you're no longer held hostage by a culture that sucks and employees who are not A players. So we're going to help you solve that problem.
You bet.
Let me just make a few announcements before we wrap up today in the new format. I wanted to just thank everybody for helping us bring this together on our team. You guys have been amazing. I just want to say that from the top. A few places we'll be speaking coming up. Taylor is actually going to be speaking without me. How dare you?
Well, you know what? You're going to be partying with a 70-year-old, I believe.
A previous commitment, but you're going to be actually in... you're going to be speaking and exhibiting at the 2018 Chimney Expo, which is being held at the Valley Forge Casino and Resort in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. The dates for that are April 5th, 6th, and 7th. You're actually going to be speaking on April 7th at 9 a.m. there at the event. We'll have a link in the show notes in the free BCP Show app for that if you're interested in attending. We'll also be speaking together a couple of times, actually quite a bit, in Portland, Oregon later on in the month at the Oregon HPBA. That's April 16th and 17th. We'll be speaking multiple times on both those days, as well as doing a panel discussion that looks really interesting.
Yeah,
so
it's going to be fun.
Excited about that. And if you're going to be out in Oregon or if you're in the area and want to come to that, make sure that you click the link in the show notes to learn more about that. Also, while in Portland, directly after that, April 18th through the 21st, speaking at the NCSG National Convention. We have a slot and a room reserved to speak to anyone who'd like to come here, some updates about what's going on out there in digital marketing and some opportunities you can take advantage of to really grow your business. We'll be speaking Friday, April 20th from 7 to 9 a.m. in the morning there at the convention center where the convention is being held. Just a quick reminder to get the free BCP Show app in iTunes and in Google Play to keep up with all of our great goodness and extras that we deliver to you right there in the app from the show every single week. Also, hang out with us over in the Blue Collar Proud Nation Facebook group. Lots of good conversations going on there. We've been kind of quiet lately with all the travel we've been doing, but we're renewing our commitment to be more involved over there. So saying that out loud right now because it is something we want you to be involved in. It's a great place to connect with us. And I think that's it. You can always find out about all the other great places where you can connect with us by simply going to bcpshow.com/connect. That's it for this episode. As always, Taylor and I want to thank you for listening. We also want to thank the people that make this show happen every single week. Aaron Blaze, our technical director, Jessica Wynn, our show coordinator, and Jonathan Sanders, our social media manager. Until next time, remember it takes the same energy to build a business you hate as it does to build one that you're proud of. Prison or paradise? Why not build it the Blue Collar Proud way? See you next time.
The Blue Collar Proud Show is a production of the Blue Collar Proud Network.